growth hormone, that is making GMOs, making cows make more milk by engineering the GMO, bovine growth hormone, some called it somatistat, to make more milk, wouldn't hurt human cells. And my work said anything but. My work said it absolutely hurt human cells. It can drive diabetes. It can drive adipocytes to the explosion of obesity we see. And of course, you know, GMOs do that. I was told that day that I showed the data and I said, no, those aren't the data. They do hurt human cells. And my boss said, you're morally, ethically, and legally responsible to do exactly as I told you. And I had a boyfriend up there that was a Frisbee champion. So I took the notebook like a Frisbee and up the bulletin board dropped behind him. And the personnel manager couldn't hide his laugh because he liked me. I played on a soccer team. I was a dog. I could run all day.
So in essence, I mean, when I'm reading, you know, the fact when they say you save millions of people's lives, so you guys essentially came up with a way to save people, prevent them, so the average person understands, from getting AIDS. That's what you ended up doing.
Correct, by showing the exact immune response. So the T cells, only 1 in 10,000. So the personnel director said, Judy, you can't throw things at your boss. And I said, that's okay. I got to go back home. My stepfather has aggressive prostate cancer. So I called Frank and I said, okay, we agreed never to say the G word in our lab. I didn't say Gallo and he didn't say graduate school. And so I said, I have to go because my stepfather's lost his first wife to cancer and his 5 children wouldn't survive if they thought their father had cancer. So I said, I got to do something. It's time to go to graduate school. So I went on the hypothesis at the time in 1987, it was the T cell that was getting infected, that in the immune system. Doesn't matter, they're two, let's just say, you know, the innate and the adaptive. So the T cells, we knew they were all dying. Why were they dying? You know, only 1 in 10,000 was infected. Somebody else had to be the shooter. Who's shooting the T cells? What is happening? It's indirect. We call it damage from a distance. So, and we proposed the hypothesis that turned out to be my award-winning thesis, because it said the macrophage, which is the innate immune response, it's your troops. They surveil all your mucosal surfaces. They go in your skin, in your blood, in your brain. Every body system has their troops ready to go. And they sense everything, and they act like little Pac-Men, and they gobble them right up. Anything that comes in, you know, not just viruses, but microbes, toxins, environmental toxins. That's that part of your immune system. So that was the shooter. And so I showed how the virus was like a Trojan horse, and it hid in the macrophage. And certain environmental toxins would wake it up. It was asleep. Wake it up, and then it infected more and more of the cells and crippled the other immune system. So my thesis basically said, you got to treat them as soon as you know there's any evidence of infection and prevent disease development. And that's what we did. So Magic Johnson was the first to do that treatment, and it took quite a heroic thing. So my PhD thesis was defended on November 14th, 1991. Magic Johnson was in the newspaper November 7th in the USA Today, and it basically said, you know, and has having come up seropositive, meaning he had an antibody to HIV. Nobody looked at the sequences, nobody looked at whatever. He's infected because he's got an antibody. He's been exposed. And so they said, based on your thesis at the molecular level, will he or will he not die of AIDS? And I said, if he changes everything in how he's treated, then you can see. And he was on the cover of Time magazine. Again, we're going to just follow Time magazine, 1991. So nobody wanted, it was one thing when the deplorables were all dying. I shouldn't use that word. When, you know, when the susceptible, it was your bad behavior. You know, but this is Magic Johnson. You know, this is, you know, he's strong as an ox when everybody can get it. That's fearful. You know, he's not gay. It's not, he's not an IV drug user. He's a basketball player where in a routine test, he has to get tested for HIV. And we still do that to this day. And they have to get certain vaccines, sports players. which again drive pandemics. So at any rate, so this is so I defended my thesis. David Ho is the medical doctor in New York City. He was on the cover of Time magazine somewhere. I think he was even Man of the Year that year for just taking the treatment. I have a PhD thesis. That's not a published document. We had 2 or 3 papers where the old boys corrupt network said, oh, you're an idiot, your samples are contaminated. We're used to this. And of course, my thesis committee saw otherwise when they heard the molecular description. And when my papers would go into press before my PhD thesis, they'd say, I didn't believe your last paper either. I mean, that's peer review in our society. And most people just don't understand how things get into journal and how that changes the culture, and how, what I call COVID-19 is propaganda masquerading as science, because there's no science in it.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Judy. By the way, thank you for sharing that. That was very helpful to kind of see the process of going from there to now. So at that time, Dr.